Okay, just before we crack into today's video, let me explain how you can help us. More and more Kiwis are waking up to the fact that New Zealand is in big trouble right now. So how can we turn this country around? The answer is through education. What does that mean? Well, it means exposing more and more people to our videos. It's as simple as that. Just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll be subscribed. What happens then? Well, when you subscribe, YouTube sends our videos out to more Kiwis. That's how it works. Subscribing is free. You'll never be charged anything. It's just that simple. So please do it and then enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Just by subscribing, you can play a big part in the solution to fixing New Zealand. Well done, you. Well, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders. In today's video, I'm going to talk about kindergartens mostly and how they become centers of radicalization. So if you've got children or grandchildren in the kindergarten, then this is a must-watch video for you. So what's in the box today? In this video, I show a video of John Tamahiri, the president of the Maori Party, saying New Zealand belongs to Maori. I discuss how this can only mean one thing, and that is Maoris are gunning to take New Zealand back. And number three, I show how this take back is already well underway. In other words, a coup is in progress. Number four, I show how kindergartens have been targeted by activists to capture the minds of our youngest children. Number five, I show how the purpose of this is to groom them, to get them ready for when they are old enough to vote. It's really preparing people to be voters, vote for all things Maori. So watch. Well, first up, this is John Tamahiri, president of the Maori Party. Look what he has to say. First up, let's just watch this video.
Sooner or later, Mr. Luxon, Mr. Peters, and Mr. Seymour will get the message that this is our whenua. We're the tangata whenua.
Okay, when he says this is our whenua and we are the tangata whenua, he says this is our land and we are the people of the land. So what does he mean by that? Well, what he's saying is that New Zealand belongs to Maori. The implication is that they want it back and they're gunning to get it back. In other words, a coup is in progress. What evidence is there that this is true, that this is actually happening? Well, let's have a look together. So here are irrefutable proofs that we see all around us. The hijack of the education system, grooming our children from Kindy to the end of university with all things Maori. Today I'm going to focus on just one aspect, and that is kindergarten education. Compulsory Maori studies for all university students, compulsory Maori studies for law students and medical centres, compulsory Maori studies for pharmacists, local councils being hijacked, that's Maori getting onto all sorts of committees with voting rights, not elected, and being paid. And so that's just that's part of the coup. The corruption of our courts, activist judges being appointed. Chris Finlayson was responsible for most of that, appointing activist judges, so that when Maori cases are being tried, they're going to get favour, and deliberately so. And then we have a two-tier policing where Maori are let off crimes and they don't suffer the same way as everybody else. Maori claiming all the beaches are theirs. The beaches don't belong to Maori, they belong to everybody. Same with the water. Maori claims for control of all the fresh water in the South Island. They're really gunning for the water, because if they get the water, then they're going to get the power supplies, they're going to get hydro, and then they can start charging everybody for their, have an iwi tax on all your electricity and your water coming in and out of your house, and electricity going into your house. And so watch out for that one. Then tikanga being made law in New Zealand. Well, that's going to be an absolute disaster, because nobody even knows what tikanga is. The continued existence of the corrupt activist WAITANGI tribunal. Strategic assets being given away to Maori via the back door through settlements. For example, Wanganui Airport, Kaitaia Airport, and now Taihape Airport. Activist MPs like LUXON, POTAKA, Goldsmith, and Stanford's fueling Maorification. That's what they're doing. Land grabbing by Maori through things like wahi tapu and land significant to Maori. There's lots of other different classifications of land that they can slap on your land, and it's just a way of funneling land out of private possession into Maori possession. And then there's Maori only fishing areas where only Maori are allowed to fish. We know all about this. Well, that's just apartheid. That's just racism. And there's nothing in the treaty about any of this, justifying any of this. This is all just made up. Media corruption promoting all things Maori. We know about this. Now, if each one of these is a marker, then join these markers, and there's only one conclusion that you can come to when you do this, and that is that a bloodless coup is in progress in this country. Well, is there other evidence that this is happening? Yes, there is. Having to consult Maori in the RMA, that's the Resource Management Act, and fast-track legislation. Why do we have to do that? That's not in the treaty. There's nothing about this in the treaty whatsoever. This is all just made up. This is all contrived. This is all just part of the coup. We shouldn't have to consult Maori whatsoever. Changing the name of our country from New Zealand to Aotearoa. Who asked for that? We didn't ask for that. It's just forced on us. Forcing Maori language through all government communications and letters that you get from all sorts of companies now. They're smattered with Maori. Who asked for that? Nobody did. Government department names in Maori didn't ask for that either. The thing about this is that all New Zealanders, including all Maori, they can speak English and they can write English. And so what's this for? Well, it's just grooming. That's all it is. All these Maori names and Maori words, Maori road signs. It's just grooming. It's part of the coup. It's softening the population up to get ready for the final takeover by Maori. That's what it's doing. Maori's dominating adverts. Well, you can see that on TV. When you watch these adverts, there's Maoris are starring in all the adverts now. Special funding for Maori dance. They got 49 million over 3 years. Who else gets that? Nobody. That's apartheid. Special entry into med school for Maori and Pacific Island kids. That's apartheid. That's racism. That's disadvantaging non-Maori. Well, what good is that? That's wrong. Maori-only areas and universities. That's apartheid. Maori's co-governing dock. That's just a way of the government shoveling land, our land owned by taxpayers, by the citizens of New Zealand, giving it to Maori, introducing tikanga into Parliament and beating it into law. That's a disaster, because that's the beginning of tribal rule going back to pre-1840 days. What are they going to do? Bring in cannibalism and bring in infanticide and bring in slavery again? Because that was all utu and muru and plunder. That's all part of tikanga. No. Well, special tax rates for Maori, that's already in place now. Just go onto the IRD website. I've done lots of videos on that. Rates exemptions for many classes of Maori land. Did you realize that councils are required to write off rates owing on Maori land? Did you know that? They just write them off. You get a big debt, they just write them off. Nobody else gets that. That's apartheid. Creating an activist-centered constitution. They want to embed their activist understanding of the treaty and hei whakaputanga into law, so that everything has to be filtered through their understanding of the treaty, which is corrupt. Maori prioritised on medical waiting lists. That's completely wrong. That's just apartheid. This is South Africa. This is all the stuff of South Africa. And you know, everything that I have just mentioned here is not in the treaty. Renaming towns, landmarks, streets. Who gave permission for that? Nobody. They're just doing it. That's because our government departments, our bureaucracy has been infiltrated by activists. That's what this is happening. Again, just these are all markers, and you just join the dots here. And if you hold all those dots in your mind in one, and you just look back and say, well, what's going on here? Well, there's a bloodless coup in progress in New Zealand. So the creation of a monster. Over the past 50 years, Maori activists have created a monster with 1,000 heads and 10,000 tentacles. You know what? There's not one area of our society which has not felt the intrusion of a Maorification tentacle. It's called Maorification infiltration. In military terms, it's the fifth column. What's that? In ancient times, an army could only take a castle or a fortress from the north, east, south, or west. In other words, there's only 4 ways to get into a castle. You couldn't take it from the air because there was no such thing as aeroplanes or helicopters. Then came the idea of infiltrating the castle, pretending to be one of the residents. This is the fifth way, hence the name, the fifth column. You get in and destroy it from within. That's what cancer does. If you get cancer in your body, it eats its own body. It eats the body that's housing it. It destroys the person from the inside out. And this is what's happening in our country. Once inside, they could destroy their enemy from within. That's exactly what cancer does. Maori activists have employed this fifth column strategy to infiltrate every area of our society from within. Government departments, councils, schools and universities, the medical council, the legal council, the real estate authority, the pharmaceutical authority, DOC, the judicial system. The list is endless. They've got in everywhere. This is the monster. And you know what? I call this penetration aggression. Once inside a council or a department or a school or a university or whatever, that this monster's, it's aggressive. If one opposes the takeover, one's job is threatened. Cancellation is widespread. One of the most vicious tentacles of the monster is the media. If one opposes the, quote, approved narrative, unquote, the media piles in on you, shaming you, shutting you down. Well, you know what? This is exactly what happened in 1920s and 30s Germany. You know where that led to. Almost daily we learn of a new area where a tentacle has penetrated. you know what, this monster is relentless. So what I'm going to do today is just look at one little area, which is the area of the kindergartens in our country, and show how they have been penetrated by this monster. So watch. Okay, this is about WAIHEKE Island Kindergarten. So there are some pictures there you see with the kids. They're nearly all Europeans, and look at the books on the bottom left-hand corner, and little girl reading a big Maori book on the top left-hand side. The teacher with a Maori book in front of everybody. So these pictures were produced by the Kindy. Notice some things here. Most of the kids are not Maori. Notice the book titles. Na Atua, that's a Maori god. Rona and the Moon. How Maui Found His Mother. How Maui Found Mother and the Magic Jawbone. In the beginning, it's Maori creation stories. So this is what's going on in the Kindy. And here's some more. Notice all the Maori gods on the wall. This is not a school. This is a cathedral. This is a Maori cathedral. So what is Atua? The key to understanding what is really going on in this Kindy, and note other schools like it all over New Zealand, not just Kindies, but primary schools and secondary schools, is to understand what the Maori word Atua means. Well, according to the Maori dictionary, Atua means is an ancestor with continuing influence, a god, a demon, a supernatural being, a deity, a ghost, an object of superstitious regard, a strange being. Now you just go and have a look at the Maori dictionary yourself and look that up. That's what you'll find. Children are being encouraged to consult regularly with Atua during the day and communicate with this living deity. In other words, they're playing around with gods. In turn, the Atua, that's a god, a demon, a supernatural being, a deity, a ghost, an object of superstitious regard, or a strange being, directs the children. So the children are losing their autonomy, and now they're being directed by these spiritual beings. The following are other aspects of Maori religion. Watch. Te Ao Maori acknowledges multiple deities Atua, each with specific spiritual domains. These include Tane, the god of forests and birds, Tangaroa, the god of the sea, Rongo, the god of cultivated food and peace, Tumatuenga, god of war and humanity, Tawhiri Matia, god of weather, Haumai, god of wild plants, Whiro, god of darkness and death, Rehua, celestial healer, Hine Nui Te Po, the goddess of death, and on it goes. So here are some spiritual concepts in Maori and Te Ao Maori. Wairua, the human soul or spirit. Maori, that's the life force present in people, objects, and nature. Mana, divine authority or spiritual power. Whakapapa, this is sacred genealogy often linked to Atua. Utu, the law of spiritual balance and retribution. Tupuna is revered ancestors viewed as the spiritual presences. Wairuatanga, that's spiritual consciousness. Hauora Wairua is spiritual well-being. And here's some quotes from so-called Maori academics. We derive mana from the Atua and our tipuna. We were born with divine mandate. And this is from Dr. Rangi Matamua. Te Ao Maori is not just a worldview, it is a spiritual belief system. There you go. Where Atua are active agents. You see active, see the word active? They're not just figments of your imagination, they're actually real beings in the universe, and our connection with them is both ancestral and divine. So look at that, there it is from their own mouth, and here's Professor Margaret Mutu. The power of the ancestors comes through us, through our whakapapa. So, it comes to us through our whakapapa. So they actually are sort of channels, diviners, if you like, people on earth who are channeling stuff. It's pretty serious. So here's some quotes from the Kindy Communication to Parents. This is at WAIHEKE Island. The following are quotes from the WAIHEKE Island Kindy to Parents. Quote, children are described as forming a spiritual connection with the realms and engaging with the realm of each Atua, that's each god, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts. Another quote, children are reported to physically engage with the realm of the Atua. That means they can feel it. If they're physically engaging with it, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts working within their associated domains. Karakia, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts, is appropriate to do any time, and that karakia is spiritual, that is, connecting to the elements of wind, earth, fire, and water rather than giving thanks to God. So here we have a karakia, which is a way of connecting with Maori gods, demons, spirits, and ghosts. And they're saying don't give thanks to God. That's the true God, Jesus Christ, but give it to all our gods. And that was a quote from that educator. There he is. Can't even read all of his name, but anyway, that's who he is. So here's some more quotes from the Kindy communication to parents. Children are encouraged to create homes for the atua, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts, and to care for the children of Tane Mahuta. Well, where would you create a home? That's in your heart or in your mind. Next one, teachers state they are incorporating the essence of the atua into our teaching practice. Papa Tuanuku, that's the god of the earth, is personified with suggestions that she is grateful for everything that we do and gives back abundantly. Okay, that honor is reserved in Christianity for God alone, the giver of all good things. But now it's the Maori gods who are now competing with Christianity. Teachers observe that tamariki, that's the children in the school, are connecting with certain atua, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, more than others. So some kids are really into this, some not so much into it. In other words, it is noted that tamariki have begun talking about the atua, that's the Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts, in their reflection interviews. So the kids go, well, the teachers go, well, how are you going? And then they say, well, we're connecting with this God and that God, and we're talking to this God and that God, and we can feel him, and we can do this with that God. And so they're starting to talk about it. In other words, what's happening here? The brainwashing is working. So I'll put the full report from the teachers to parents from this WAIHEKE Island kindergarten in the description of this video. You can read it for yourself. And there's the actual reference there. Well, who's this lady? This is Emily Petronelli, who's the principal of Te HURUHI Primary on WAIHEKE Island. So this is not just kindergarten now. We've moved on to the primary. Emily Petronelli is principal of Te HURUHI Primary, is worse still. She has tried to reclassify Maori religion as Maori culture in order to circumnavigate the law. You know what? I would have thought that's a criminal offence when you're actually sort of circumnavigating the law to do something. Here is what she wrote to a concerned parent. She said, we acknowledge the importance of providing secular education as outlined in the Education and Training Act 2020, while also recognising the significance of cultural identity in Te Tireo Waitangi and Aotearoa New Zealand's educational framework. Te Reo Maori and Maori cultural perspectives are integral to our curriculum, she says, and this includes the use of karakia, whakataki, and stories that may include references to atua as part of a cultural, not religious, instructional context. Now watch this. See the way she's written that? She's fudging it. She's saying, mate, you know what? We know this is religious, but it's not religious, it's cultural. So she's putting a real emphasis on this. I want you guys to get this. She's fudging it. So we all know Emily's reply is BS. Yep. She knows it too. That's why she's written it like that. And you know what? Her bio says she's been a worship leader in a Christian church. There you go. Can you believe it? Anyway, back to the Kindy. Children regularly engage in karakia, that's prayers to atua, ancestors, demons, spirits, ghosts. Waiata, that's spiritually themed songs. Pōwhiri, ceremonies invoking spiritual presence, that's Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts. They're invoking them like a Ouija board. The haka performing as spiritual and ancestral invocation, calling down Maori gods, demons, spirits, ghosts. You know what? These are all really heavy religious observances. All this is designed to capture the minds and hearts of the children who attend our schools from Kindy up until the end of university. Yeah? So what's the ultimate purpose? It's brainwashing. It's indoctrination. It's grooming our children with all things Maori so that when they are old enough to vote, they will vote for any party which is best promoting all things Maori. That's what it's about. So this is where this leads. I just happened to stumble across this video on YouTube as I was researching this topic. There you go. Maori God's Fortune Teller. You can look that up on YouTube yourself. Go look for that title. And it's showing kids how they can have their fortune told. Yeah, through all this Maori stuff. How's that? So how should Christians respond to this? Well, what's an appropriate Christian response? Well, Jesus scourged the temple with a whip when the priests and the money changers were ripping off the innocent people. They were peddling a false religion at the time, these priests and money changers. Now, our schools are peddling a false religion too, ripping off the innocents, namely children. Like I've said in other videos, children come to school, they're innocent. They should be the ones who are most protected, thinking that adults are doing the best for them, and they're not. Adults are not doing the best for them. Adults are actually doing the very worst thing. So churches ought to be up in arms, scourging the schools of this false religion, this witchcraft, this demon worship. Instead, what are the churches doing? Many churches have aligned themselves with this religion, speaking Maori in the services and singing songs in Maori in their churches, virtue signaling, trying to be woke. Yet the first of the 10 Commandments says, you shall have no other gods beside me. See that? It's the very first of the 10 Commandments. Possibly saying it's the most important one. Start with that one. You shall have no other gods. And we're teaching our kids to have all these other gods. What the heck? Well, 2 Corinthians 6:17 says, therefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. In other words, you come out from among all this rubbish, and you don't touch it. Not even touch it, not even speak it, not do anything with it. Just leave it alone. Get away from it. Separate yourself from it. And then I'll receive you. You know, you're one of mine when you do that. This verse is a call to Christians to separate themselves from the world and its influences, particularly from any connection with idolatry. It's exactly what Maori religion is, and any involvement with false gods. There you go. Christians often say, what would Jesus do as a guide to their behavior? Well, would Jesus have spoken the language of idolaters who worship false gods just to virtue signal? Would Jesus have been woke? Well, come on, you know the answer. He wouldn't have had a bar of it. In fact, he came to fight all this stuff. He did. He came as light to fight darkness. This is darkness. Enter this guy, ELSDON Best. If you want to know how bad Maori religion is, just read what this guy's got to say. If you want to know how bad and dark Maori religion is, look no further than ELSDON Best, who was 1856 to 1931. He was an ethnographer who made a huge contribution to the study of Maoris in New Zealand. An ethnographer is just somebody who studies ethnic groups. In his stellar book on Maori black magic and witchcraft, he observed that Maori life was awash with both. Look at what he says. Below is an extract from his book. He says this, hence, to give a description of all branches of magic would be to compile a practically complete account of Maori life. In other words, what he's saying is, mate, you know what? Magic was part of Maori life everywhere and in everything, and would result in an article of such appalling length that it would probably be returned to me with or without thanks. He's saying, you know what, if I was to write down all the magic and all the ooky spooky stuff that Maori religion delves into, he said it would take such a lot of paper, it would just be an appalling length to write it all down. He says I couldn't do it. See? This is what we're going into. So he also wrote the following. This is Tangi Tawhiti. This is a spell of magic in the form of a chant or a dirge. A chaunt is just an alternative word for a chant. It was used to order to slay a person or persons sometimes living far away. The following is a Tangi Tawhiti composed and chanted by the Tuahoi people in order to avenge the death of Tuumu Ariki, one of their chiefs, who had been slain at Wangara. And so they had this chant which they would chant to kill somebody far away. See? It's witchcraft. This is what our kids are getting into. So I would urge you to read ELSDON Best's book, which I have put in the description of this video. And man, I tell you what, it is absolutely eye-watering when you read what is involved here. So let's go to the Kohimarama Conference 1860. Well, you'll know all about this. 20 years after the treaty was signed at Waitangi, 144 chiefs gathered for a whole month at Kohimarama. What for? Well, essentially the governor, Gore Brown, wanted to review with them how the treaty was going and how relationships between the chiefs and the British were being played out. I guess you could say, if you like, it was a time for a treaty war and a fitness. They were saying, well, we've had 20 years of the treaty. How's it all going? Want to hear your opinions? And all the chiefs made speeches. And one of the dominant themes of these speeches was the desire of the chiefs to dump their Maori religion and take up Christianity. That's one of the dominant themes. And do you know what? There was no complaints in that conference, the whole conference. Only one complaint. One chief hadn't been paid for his land, and that was just sort of a clerical error, and Donald McLean the land officer for the British would have sorted that out. It was just a sort of a bookkeeping error. But other than that, for a whole month, 144 chiefs made speeches and not one complaint. All just so happy with how everything was going. Yep. You read it for yourself. I'll put it in the description of the video. The very first speaker was this guy, Peora Tuahira. And here he is here. This is what he said. He made the very first speech because this was his area. Kohimarama was where he lived. So he says, these are my words. I entertained the Pakeha for a long time and I found him good. So he says 20 years I've been dealing with Pakeha and I found him good. Hence I say, I shall always remember the Pakeha and I shall always remember too with affection the governor who was sent here to protect us. Then he says this, the benefits which we have received from him are Christianity and the laws. Now listen, he's saying to all the chiefs, my affections at the present time lie between these two blessings. That's Christianity and the laws. Listen again, my heart is satisfied. He's saying, mate, I'm so happy with the Treaty of Waitangi. Nothing's gone wrong. We're all happy. And you know what? The British brought Christianity and the laws and we are thrilled. Now that is a theme that went right through all the speeches of the 144 chiefs. So what we hear today from the Maori activists, the Maori Party and all these other people being victims and complaining and saying that colonisation has wrecked them, this is all completely untrue. They're not honouring these chiefs at all. They're just trashing their own chiefs. Well, what am I saying here? I'm saying this. I'm saying that the 144 chiefs in 1860 were pulling out of their old witchcraft and dark religion. They were embracing Christianity. They'd had enough of hocus pocus and worshipping false gods, and they said, we don't want any more of this. It's done us no good. We've been 600 years, and all we've done is warred and eaten each other and taken slaves and killed our babies. They'd had enough of all that. It had brought them nowhere, got them nowhere. And, you know, Christianity was such a beautiful thing for them. Well, what's happening? Today's Maori activists are going the absolute opposite direction to these elders, to these 144 chiefs. What do I mean? Well, they're taking Maori today away from Christianity, the light, and into their old Maori religious ways. That's the darkness. And all this generation of our children as well. They're dragging all of them into it as well. In other words, Maori activists are trashing their elders. That's Maori activists today. They're not honouring the treaty or the chiefs who signed it. Shame on today's activists for being so absolutely hypocritical. Well, what's the legal situation here? According to Section 58 of the Education and Training Act 2020, all spiritual practices in schools, including karakia, require opt-in parental consent. However, woke ECE, that's early childhood education centres, and the Maori culture-loving schools, get around this by insisting that the Maori stuff is cultural and not spiritual. Remember the principal of the school at WAIHEKE Island, what she was doing, what she was up to? Well, this is an outright lie that is going unchallenged. It's not cultural, it's spiritual, it's a religion. How can we be sure it's a lie? Well, according to the Oxford Dictionary, religion is defined in this way: the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. Well, look at that. It's pretty clear, isn't it? What I've just described about Maori religion exactly fits that definition from the dictionary. That's what it is. It's the worship of superhuman powers, especially a god or gods, plurality. Notice that? So why are not Christians outraged? Maori religion is being shoved down the throats of our children and grandchildren, all under the cloak of Maori culture. You know what? All parents, especially Christian parents, ought to be outraged. Especially when one clicks to the motive behind those pushing this, the spiritual darkness involved here, the danger our children and grandchildren are in with their minds and hearts, the negative psychological and emotional effects which will surface for these children later in life. It's bound to. On what basis can I say this? Well, you asked me, you shall know them by their fruit. Who said that? Jesus said this. He said, you shall know them by their fruit. What's he saying? Well, if Maori religion is so wonderful, so liberating, so marvellous, then we'd expect to see the fruit of this religion all around us, right? Wouldn't we? We'd say, hey, mate, this religion is so the basis of all the good behaviour and amazing things Maori are doing. We'd expect to see no Maori in prison, full Maori employment, Maori solo parents being a rarity, no family violence among Maori, no Maori child abuse, no Maori cruelty to animals, no Maori dependence on the state, no Maori suicide, Maori being the most exemplary, socially responsible cultural group on the planet. Is that true? Well, it would be, if this religion is so incredible, because it's the basis of all they're doing. So, what's the truth of the matter? Well, the truth is, sadly, Maori top the negative social statistics in every measure, in every area. Well, why is this so? Well, as the Master said, you'll know them by their fruit. Maori religion and culture leads only to one place. Where's that? The bottom of the barrel. So yet politicians want our children to drink Maori culture and language in, right down to the dregs. This is Erica Stanford. They just gave Maori 100 million to do all this. Well, this is insanity. This is akin to forcing our children to drink poison. So what's the reality? Maori activists are messing with the minds of our children and grandchildren. They're introducing them to great spiritual darkness. Maori activists are using our children for political purposes. They're just pawns in the Maori activist ploy to take over the country. That's what they are. So what's my advice to parents? I would not have my child learn any Maori language or culture whatsoever. It's brainwashing. It's indoctrination. It opens the door, as it were, to much darker stuff down the track. It's grooming. It's grooming our children with all things Maori so that, like I said, when they're old enough to vote, they will vote for any party which is promoting the Maori takeover of New Zealand by 2040. Some parents absolutely foolishly say, oh, I don't mind my child learning a bit of Maori language, but I don't want them learning Maori spirituality and Maori culture. Well, what are we to make of this? Well, I'd say it's impossible to separate Maori language from Maori culture. They're one and the same. They are as intertwined as the yolk and the white in scrambled eggs. To start using Maori language is to align oneself with the ideological agenda of Maori activists. So what I want you to do is go to your school and your kindy, say no, strongly, very strongly, scourge the temple, as it were. No affirmative action is too strong here. Sit down with your children and explain to them what is going on at school with Maori culture and language. Take them through this video. Pull them out of school and homeschool them if necessary. This is what you've got to do. This is a really, really serious issue. You're putting your children under a yoke of dark bondage, and their lives are just beginning. They need not be doing this sort of stuff, and they should not be doing this sort of stuff. They shouldn't be exposed to this. Let's just say it what it is. It's evil. That's what it is. There's no other word for it. It's just evil. There you go. How's that? Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about a third of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. packages. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@stopcogovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. The little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.